Happy holidays. I'm Kevin Cirilli. It's time for the Daily Debrief. Let's get right to it. The UN Security Council passed a resolution to send aid to Gaza, with the U.S. and Russia abstaining from the vote. The U.S. was able to shift the language of the resolution from language that would not allow Israel to defend itself. Russia abstained from the vote, saying that the resolution did not do enough to oppose Israel. U.S. Ambassador to the UN, Linda Thomas-Greenfield, criticized the countries that refused to condemn the Hamas October 7 terrorist attack against Israel. She said that she cannot understand why several council members have remained silent in the face of such evil. Trump's push to stop election certifications caught on tape. The Detroit News obtained audio of the former president pressuring two Michigan county officials to not certify the election results in 2020. Trump told officials on the call that everybody knows Detroit is crooked as hell, per the Detroit News. RNC chairwoman Ronna McDaniel was also caught saying, "Do not sign it. We will get you attorneys." While Trump added, "We'll take care of that." Trump campaign spokesperson Stephen Chung hit back, saying Trump's actions were taken in furtherance of his duty as President of the United States to faithfully take care of the laws and ensure election integrity. This comes on the heels of Trump being booted from the ballot in Colorado and Biden's campaign comparing him to Hitler. Trump hit out again the allegations on the Hugh Hewitt show.
First of all, I know nothing about Hitler. I'm not a student of Hitler. I never read his works. They say that he said something about blood. He didn't say it the way I said it either, by the way. It's a very different kind of a statement. What I'm saying when I talk about people coming into our country is they are destroying our country.
Trump continued to double down on his claims illegal immigrants are destroying our country. The New York Times claims Israel used one of its most destructive bombs in parts of Gaza it declared safe for civilians. A video investigation by the Times focused on the use of 2,000-pound bombs dropped in southern Gaza, where Israel had ordered civilians to move for safety. This report comes out after Gaza officials say the death toll has passed 20,000. Also breaking today, the first Israeli-American citizen being held by Hamas in Gaza has been declared dead by the hostages and missing persons families Forum. Gadi Haggai was taken hostage during the October 7th terrorist attack. His wife Judy still remains in captivity. He was 73 years old. Is the 2024 election going to be up to the Supreme Court? Here's a rewind of this week's top stories. The Colorado Supreme Court says former President Donald Trump can't run for president on the state's ballot because he violated the Constitution's insurrection clause. The case is likely headed to the Supreme Court, and Trump's campaign says they're ready for the fight. On the campaign trail, Trump escalated his immigration rhetoric.
And they're destroying the blood of our country. They're destroying the fabric of our country. And we're going to have to get them out.
The remark prompted severe backlash, with Biden's campaign posting an infographic on X comparing Trump with Adolf Hitler. GOP presidential candidate Nikki Haley is surging to second place in New Hampshire primary polls. Her campaign is hoping the momentum will be enough to force a two-person primary between her and Trump. Former New York City Mayor Rudy Giuliani filed for bankruptcy after owing $148 million in the defamation case by two Georgia election workers. The judge did decrease the payment, not by much though. He's still on the hook for $146 million. Texas Governor Greg Abbott signed a law criminalizing illegal entry into the state. In a phone call with Mexico President Andres Manuel Lopez Obrador, Biden ramped up pressure for AMLO to do more to stop the crisis. North Korea tested an intercontinental ballistic missile that can hit anywhere in the continental U.S., according to Japan. South Korea denounced the move, saying it goes against the United Nations Security Council rules. Regardless, North Korea's military said in a statement that the ICBM launch was a preview of nuclear war. Pennsylvania Senator John Fetterman blasted the sale of U.S. Steel Corp to Japan's Nippon Steel, saying that the nearly $15 billion deal is a major blow to his state, where more than 3,700 people are employed by the American steelmaker. Justice Sandra Day O'Connor was laid to rest. Funeral services were held at the National Cathedral in Washington, where Biden and Chief Justice Roberts honored the life of the first female on the Supreme Court. O'Connor was 93 years old. A small provision in the National Defense Authorization Act requires the federal government to release publicly some records it has on UFOs and UAPs, but the president can still decide if the record should remain undisclosed for national security reasons. Southwest Airlines settled with the Department of Transportation to the tune of $140 million. It was all part of their giant screw-up settlement during the 2022 holidays, when more than 2 million passengers were left stranded after the airline canceled nearly 17,000 flights and marks DOT's largest consumer protection penalty ever. There was no Christmas kumbaya on the political campaign trail this week. Trump ratcheted up his immigration rhetoric, and the Biden campaign compared Trump to Hitler. So let's get analysis from two Washington insiders, Democratic strategist Antjuan Seawright, who's back and forth between DCA and South Carolina, and Republican strategist Garrett Ventry, who's back and forth between Reagan and Mar-a-Lago. Garrett, Michigan Trump tapes, I want to start there. Does this hurt him with moderates?
I don't think it does here. Again, he's clarified the comments here since on Hugh Hewitt, if that's what you're talking about. But I think you have to take a step back here. What moderates, what independents, the two main issues that they're facing right now are inflation, economy, and the border. Those are the big issues, and Joe Biden just has not performed well on that when you look at the polling right now. Now, he's got a year to try and change that, but the last 2 or 3 here have not been that good for him here. So, again, I think those are the issues that voters are focused on. I think those are the issues that President Trump is strong on, and we'll see how it all plays out over the next year.
Antjuan, is the left comparing Trump to Hitler trying to change the subject from the Rashida Tlaib foreign policy wing of the party?
I don't think so. I think what you see from the Democratic ecosystem is the defining of who the Republicans are. And not just former President Trump, but it's Lottie Dottie and everybody in the Republican Party. They have all, I think, indoctrinated themselves in extremism, which is heavily baked into Trumpism, and that's who they are. And so if the leader of their party, who's leading in every poll, if polls are the political GPS here, if he is reading Hitler's speeches, if he's using language that is flirtatious with what Hitler used during his day, then I think we have to tell the American people the truth. And when the choice comes at the ballot box, let the American people decide what they want this country to ultimately end up being.
Antjuan, you just mentioned the polls, Garrett. I want to get some reaction on the polls because the Hill's Decision Desk 2024 showing that Nikki Haley gaining momentum in New Hampshire and surging in second place and within 13 percentage points of Trump. Is Trump world getting nervous about Nikki Haley?
I can't speak to what Trump world may or may not be doing, but here's what I know. In the Democratic preference primary, it's win, place, or show. So second, third, and even fourth place matters in some cases. In the Republican preference primary, it's winner take all. So second place does not mean anything. And if you're talking about, it's one thing to be a close second place, it's another thing to be a 20, 30, 40 point second place.
Garrett,
with all due respect, I think every other candidate has a lot of ground to make up if they want to be the nominee.
Garrett, go ahead.
Yeah, so I think that, listen, Nikki Haley has a surge here, but you're talking about a surge for second place here. It's her and Ron fighting it out. The problem is, everyone who's at a moment, whether it's Vivek, whether it's Ron, whether it's Nikki in this kind of second place push here, has not taken any votes away from Donald Trump. You've got to be able to take away from his pool when he's over 50% of the vote in these states, obviously 60, 70% sometimes nationally he's tracking up. But in Iowa particularly, talking about the Fox Business poll that came out, he's got over 50% of the vote there. Now, Haley has a little bit of a surge here, but again, if she doesn't win in New Hampshire, I don't really see a path forward because in South Carolina, I think, she's going to get wiped out there too. Trump's got a massive lead there. So the issue right now, I don't think is worrying about whether or not these candidates here. It's a lot of media speculation just because I think Trump has such a dominant lead right now. So no one's really shown they could take away from his pool of voters. And that's the main issue right now.
Well, Antjuan, let's pivot now to the polls in the general election. Does the Biden campaign need a political reset? I mean, you look at these polls, he's trailing in every battleground. He's trailing nationally.
Well, I don't know what polls that are on the hearts and minds of people, but every poll I've seen has Joe Biden in a very comfortable position. He's leading. And polls are about constituencies in particular. And if you look at the constituencies that make up the coalition that will give anyone 270 electoral votes, I'd much rather be in Joe Biden's position than Donald Trump or Nikki Haley or anyone else. The fact of the matter is we still have time to calcify and come together in the Democratic ecosystem and wrap our arms around our nominee. It's not uncommon to be in this position. But if you look at the economy, which my dear friend Garrett mentioned earlier, if you look at what this president is trying to do as relates to border security, if you look at the fact that inflation has come down lower than it was before the pandemic, the fact is this president on all economic measures, traditional measures, is doing very well. And that's a strong argument to be made in a general election.
Yes or no, one word answer before I let you go. Antjuan, you're first, and then Garrett, reply right away. Yes or no, Ron DeSantis drops out of the race after the Iowa caucus. Antjuan?
Yes.
Garrett?
Before. You should drop out before. Yes,
Wow.
I think
it was a one-word answer, but, you know.
But yes, there you go, yes.
All right. We'll leave it there. Happy holidays. Thanks for joining us on I know it's the holidays, so thank you both for joining us. Appreciate it.
You too, guys. Take care.
And to top off the week, I've said it before, I will say it again, I actually do read the comments. And this week, we covered an area that I'm very passionate about, and I will keep covering. That's outer space. And a lot of you had a lot to say about it. At Truth Hurts 2023, if the Hill wasn't so greedy for clicks, they wouldn't be covering this topic based on the evidence provided, which is no evidence at all. Hey, truth hurts, the truth does hurt. There was a hearing on this on the Hill. The National Defense Authorization Act included line by line, buried in a 4,000-page document, and I reported on it. That's the truth. Okay, this isn't just conspiracy or speculation. These are facts. These are serious lawmakers. These are actual Hill hearings. We're going to cover the news. At Kathy Carey 9012, really ignorant if you think we are the only beings in this big universe. I'm not going to say I disagree with that. At Scotty Boy, hey Scotty Boy, hopefully the Hill will get the credit it deserves when the UFO disclosure is busted open. Thanks for being the only channel sticking with the story and taking it seriously. You know, Scotty Boy, I'm going to say this. I don't think we're the only channel. I do think we're one of a few. So I appreciate it, but I do think there are other serious journalists out there who are covering this. At the Dark Moon 2341, if aliens are observing our present antics, I doubt they would see us as an intelligent species. You know what? I feel like maybe that comment speaks for itself, but I will tell you this, Dark Moon, I want to know who's actually on the dark side of the moon, which countries have set up bases there. And growing up outside of Philly and Delco, every Sunday after Mass, my parents would flip through the Sunday paper to prep to watch the Sunday shows. And think about the paper. There's sections on politics, business, technology, crime, sports, celebrity, and of course, don't forget about the stock market. But then they tossed me the comics section so that I could read Snoopy. I love Snoopy, big Snoopy fan. But even the Sunday Comics gets its own section in a newspaper. There's no outer space section. As journalists, how can we as an industry earn back the trust of the public if we're only covering a sliver of a speck of our own perspective on this pale blue dot? I know there are some in this town, and for that matter across the country, who are going to make fun of me for covering this, but I'll be okay. Trust me. That's it for today's Daily Debrief. My name is Kevin Cirilli. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to The Hill's YouTube channel, and come back here soon for the intersection between politics and policy.